For more, we're joined by a former German ambassador to NATO, Joachim Bitterlich. Thank you for being with us here on France 24. You just heard what our correspondent was saying there in Moscow. At this point in time, is it getting worse, or do you feel that there is daylight for some kind of détente, if you pardon the expression?
I think it's a typical situation with regard to Ukraine, as there has been from the beginning a certain disagreement or a certain agreement to disagree between the Russian perception and the Western perception with regard to the Ukraine. For the Russians, it's, let's say, part of their history. It's part of the former USSR. It's independent, yes, but it's not really independent in their eyes. Look at the situation, look at Crimea, look at the east of Ukraine, the former armament industry of the Soviet Union, and it's a special case for them. And for that reason, the Russians are insisting to look for, let's say, a specific solution for the Ukraine, and we have been crossing for them the red line when the Americans offered to the Ukraine NATO accession in 2008.
Yeah, and there was a NATO foreign ministers meeting on Wednesday.
Yes.
It took place in Latvia. On that very point, they equivocated. They didn't say yes, but they didn't say no.
Because this is the situation within NATO. Because in 2008 we postponed the final decision on, let's call it, the destiny of Ukraine with regard to NATO. But for the Russians, this is, let's say, crossing the red line. And I think the only solution that the Russians themselves, in their certain paranoia against NATO, against the Western world, and in order to be taken seriously, this would be, let's say, a neutral Ukraine, associated to the European Union and associated to the East, as a bridge between the two.
So the possibility for some kind of compromise is there in your eyes. So we have all these mechanisms by which they can talk, the Normandy format, the Minsk protocol. Why aren't they being used?
I think the talks within the Minsk format have been, let's say, in the last months, a failure to some extent, due to both sides, to the Russian side and due to the Ukrainian side. And what the Russian problem is, they want to be taken seriously, especially, first of all, by the US, at the same level as a world power, and at the same time by France and Germany. These are the three parts of the game, if you want.
And on the France and Germany take them seriously, no?
Yes, but the Russians want to be taken seriously, and for them the number one are the US. And then the number two within Europe are France and Germany. But on the other side, you have Ukraine itself, who is feeling more and more independent in their situation, at least since the Maidan days, if you want.
And is it thanks, because the genesis of the current tension was that drone strikes against separatist positions in the Donbass, Turkish-made drones used by the Ukrainian army. That's when you had the troop buildup. Is the Ukrainian military, thanks to this new technology, more independent?
Yes. They are on their way to become more independent. And for the Russians, this is a threat in their feeling. For them, it's near abroad. It's the old Russian thesis on their neighborhood. They have given up the Baltic states. They have given up Poland. They will never give up Belarus. And they will not give up the Ukraine.
So, in that regard, being taken seriously, which is the first demand, I've heard it from both our Moscow correspondent and now from you, Joachim Bitterlich. What did you think of the optics of Antony Blinken and Sergei Lavrov sitting down this Thursday?
I think they should reflect how to come nearer to a longer-term solution.
Does the Biden administration understand that?
What the Russians would like to get there is a sort of guarantee that the Ukraine will not be, let's say, a NATO member, let's say, in the next 20 years. And then they are ready to guarantee the independence of Ukraine.
Is that a guarantee the Biden administration is willing to give, especially with Joe Biden?
I don't know. But I think if they want to get, let's say, a less explosive, a relationship with less tensions, a more normal modus vivendi at least, with Russia, as it is, I think they will have to think about it seriously.
And one final question. The Ukrainians also feel scorned. There hasn't been a meeting between its president since he was inaugurated, Volodymyr Zelensky and Vladimir Putin.
Exactly.
From what you're saying, that's not going to happen anytime soon.
That this should take place in during the next steps towards such a solution. But I do not know how far the Ukraine itself is ready to go in this field.
Joachim Bitterlich, former NATO ambassador, former German ambassador to NATO, excuse me. Thank you so much for being with us here on France 24.
With pleasure, as always.